Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 33 of This Valorant Life. In this episode, we are going to be exploring the mind of Adam, also known as Dopai, also known as the number one goat in all of your heart. What would he do if we started over from the beginning? How would he approach the game? What would he focus on? I think it'd be an interesting question, knowing what he knows now. So, with that, Adam, if you were to start over in Valorant today, what what would you do first? Would you focus on your mechanics? Would you do like a Rock Lee aim training arc where you just did like 30 days of 8 hours of Kovacs? What would you do at the beginning?
Man, there's a lot to unpack here. I think aim training is very useful, it's very beneficial. I think that that's definitely something that I would want to incorporate early, just to make sure that I have good aim technique developed, a good foundation to start with. But I don't think it will be the main focus. I would probably dedicate like 15 to 30 minutes. I might start with the Valorant Voltaic benchmarks. Try to get towards the gold complete, and then play that every so often, maybe as a warm up, maybe after my rank games. Not entirely sure, but that's like not too much aim labs. Most of my time would definitely be spent in the game. And if I'm like super fresh, like I knowing what I know now, but like let's just pretend like I have no mouse and keyboard experience, um, I would probably be spending a lot of time in deathmatch and or the range. Um, like just getting the shooting style that I want like relatively good. So if I want to be a good, say, sprayer, I would practice my burst and my spraying. And if I wanted to be a good burst strafer, then I would practice my tapping and my burst. Um, and that would be the large bulk of my practice in terms of mechanics for the first, say, section. When think of sections, I think of like low elo, medium elo, and high elo. I would probably be doing a heavy intensive foundation building while I'm still in low elo.
For the kind of foundation building, how would you split up, or how would you think about splitting up your time in the range versus your time in deathmatch?
Maybe at the start it would actually be more time in the range because it's like a lower pressure environment, and I could build those habits with my shooting technique and my movement first, and then I can test that in the deathmatch. So I think that would be more ideal, is more time in the range and aim labs, and then once I kind of feel somewhat comfortable, like end with the deathmatch, I think.
If you were, because we have the choice now, would you be spending more time in regular DM or the team DM?
I didn't even consider TDM, but I see the appeal. You have different gun choices. I would say because at the start of learning the game, it's more important about learning maps and peeking. I would say DM takes precedence, and then maybe TDM is something I would supplement once I'm in, say, mid elo, because the maps are different. And I don't really find that in TDM I do much peeking, but more so like holding. And then like you try to get multi frags when they swing into you. It's like more of that mixture rather than peeking as the main way to get kills.
And would you be playing DM sound on or sound off?
Maybe at the start I would do sound on just to kind of like not get completely destroyed, and like if
Yeah.
my shooting technique yeah, if my shooting technique is the focus, like making sure I'm burst strafing, the fact that I hear the enemy is less important. But then once I maybe am in that medium elo, or I start climbing the ranks and I need to focus in more on the peaking aspect, then I would probably go sound off.
If you're working on peaking, if you're working on crosshair placement, gunfight hygiene, are you thinking that like if you were just putting all this all together, because you're not good at any of them at this point, are you doing them one by one? Are you, like this week I'm going to work on this, or this week I'm working that, or do you think like different days you're going to be focusing on different things and just trying to like kind of bring them all up at the same rate, or are you just trying to push one up first and then move on to the next one?
I kind of feel like it would happen naturally, in the sense that whatever I think is weakest, I would focus on that. So I That's kind of how I've approached aim training, at least, is whatever my weakest category is on aim trainers, I like hyper fixate on that until I can bring it up. And then whatever else happens after that, like maybe I'll just play and then I'll notice a different part of my aim feels weak, or I'll just go to the next up on the benchmark and then I'll train that. So if that relates to Valorant, I don't know, because it's harder to benchmark yourself on Valorant skills. Like crosshair placement's an ongoing process, shooting technique is an ongoing process. I think that would have to be dictated based on if I review my footage and I'm like, I'm consistently doing this and it's losing me the fight. But yeah, it would be hard to say until feel it out. I think it's more of a feel type of thing.
How would you even choose like your agent? Like not knowing what style of player you would be, how would you even start to make a decision on, okay, I'm going to commit to this style or this type of character or this agent specifically, and I'm going to start trying to main it and grow as a player? Or would it be like kind of a smorgasbord and you're just trying everything?
Well, because I know that I want to be a proactive player in this, like knowing what I know now, being proactive is good in ranked, and taking duels is important. Um, my first agents that I would be picking would just be geared towards duels. So like your Reyna, like your Jet, like your ISO, um, like something simple where I don't have to think util too much. And then after, like say like I'm plat or diamond, that's when I'll start looking to specialize in the role. And the decision to specialize in your role then, I would be thinking more so of like, how do I want to, like, how does it match my personality? So let's just say like this was 5 years ago when I was 18 and I didn't talk much, right? I might not want to play duelist. I might play controller or sentinel, but maybe lean more on the sentinel side because I don't want to calm too much. But if I'm like talkative now and I want to IGL and take control of the game, then I would probably lean more on duelist or initiator because I can kind of like direct where the map control should be taken and like use the util to support that. So I think considering your personality type is important, um, but don't make that decision to main an agent or a role until you're already in the higher ranks because you have to build that mechanical foundation first.
And so your feeling really is that that low elo is much less about IGLing and proper use of eco and learning all these different things. It's mostly about getting a foundation of these mechanics down.
I think so. Yeah. Like, and I think it's mainly because there's just so much randomness in that rank that you can only rely on your mechanics. Like, if I were to try the IGL every single game and then I have like just random comps, like, I don't even know what the other agents might be doing. For example, like, Haven, like a standard comp is like, where you have Recon Initiator, you have Duelist, you have Smokes, you have Sentinel. But I would imagine in the lower ranks, you might have like either no Smokes or no Sentinel, or you might not even have like a Recon. It's like you're missing those elements. So I wouldn't put too much stock in coordinating with the team. I would put more stock in myself.
How do you make that work in low elo? I think like there's this general feeling of like, okay, like I want to play this game like the way I see VCT or something. We're going to play that type of game. Like, how do you get, in your experience, like how do you focus in on just your mechanical play, focusing on yourself instead of thinking and getting caught up in like what other people are doing?
The way that I would approach that is by becoming the boss of a certain part of the map. Because you can pretty much just spam play one part of the map and just get really good at that. So the first thing that comes to mind is Ascent. I don't know why, but I think of Ascent A main and Ascent B main. Right? Those are like straightforward ways to contest for both halves. It's neutral space. I'm just gonna fight that area over and over and over and over and over again, and hopefully I win. And then maybe halfway through the half, or like I'll just intermittently switch. I'll just go to the other side. So if I've been A main, I'll go B main. Not overcomplicate it. If my teammates want to rush, I'll go rush. If my teammates don't want to rush, I'll go pick my spot.
No, that makes a lot of sense. If you were going to be focusing on the mechanics in that low elo range, the moment you make it to, well, actually, maybe I'll ask this too. Are there any agents? You said if you're in the low elo, you would be playing the duelist agents. Are there
Mm-hmm.
agents you wouldn't be playing in a low elo?
No Killjoy. I think Killjoy and Viper are very easy to climb on, and Brimstone because you can play post plant. You have util to peek off of, and the mollies are really strong, right? And their ults are very good. So because they have good impact ults and all of their other util is very, I don't want to like say crutch, but like you can util crutch and that be your strength and not your foundations. Um, then I think that you want to avoid that because you need to develop your mechanics, not your util.
And what happens to a player if they overdevelop or kind of crutch on their utility?
They aren't able to like win the fights that they need to when they don't have util. So like for example, let's just bring Killjoy. If they don't go to your bomb site, you're playing retake. You don't have util to take or to play retake. So in that scenario, it's not going to be great for you, right?
But like, are you thinking that they're not confident or willing to take their 50-50s?
Yes, yes. You need to be um, not using util to run away from fights. And I think if you do play those agents, you will develop the tendency to run away from a 50-50 because you have so much util.
And so for players maybe that are stuck in below plat and diamond, they might say, well, it's just because of my teammates or something else. But what I'm hearing from you is if you have decent mechanics, you will be able to literally shoot your way out of low elo.
100%. It might not be like the fastest way you would get there, but it's the most important way, in my opinion, to get to that rank, um, because that's the foundation of this game. Yeah. You can definitely shoot your way out of low elo, 100%.
I think it's important to say too, though, that this is not necessarily an endorsement of playing brain dead, right? Like you're shooting your way out of low elo, you're still trying to make good reads, still trying to make good decisions around eco, coordinating buys, you're still trying to do the other stuff, but that is preparing for the future. Whereas the mechanics and getting decent at that is what's going to get you out of here.
Correct. And I think like to maybe go on that a little bit further, what we're trying to encourage with the duelist, or what I'm trying to encourage with the duelist is you're climbing from your gun skill and not from gimmicks with like throwing fakes or using a certain tech util lineup to get this area of the map that's like it's like that stuff is good to have in the future because you might need that when the rounds are more complex and when there's more on the line. But right now stakes are low. We just kind of want to be able to play like fundamental tac FPS without the gimmicks and rely on our gun skill first.
What I'm hearing too there, Adam, is it just that will open up the world for that player in the future. If you have decent gun skills and you've been playing duelist and you realize that you want to play a sentinel, now you'll be a more effective sentinel because you can play off your util, you can use your trap plays, um, but it kind of doesn't work in the reverse, right? Like if trap plays
Mm-hmm.
or gimmick things have gotten you to that level, well, now you're out of luck because you can't rely on your gun skills to play off of those things. So it's kind of like the street doesn't go both ways.
Mm-hmm. Another way you can think of this maybe is when you play duelist, you're playing with weights on, like it's holding you down, and then when you take them off, you're lighter. And another way you can think about it is duelist is on like playing Valorant on hard mode, because if you compare that to like let's say Jet, you have to take all your fights without util that can assist you, and then you're playing Killjoy and you swing off a turret. If you're playing Phoenix, you can flash and swing, and they're all blind, right? And I think like the quickest way to climb would probably be playing a flash agent and then picking up the Odin or like a spray weapon like a stinger and just flash and then spray and you'd get kills that way. But that's not going to give you the foundation to climb with, say, a Vandal when you have to take dry fights and you don't know how to do the burst strafing maneuvers, right? So you can get kills in like a lot of different ways, but at some point you're going to reach a ceiling to where that playstyle won't work anymore, and then you have to learn from the start, anyways.
And just to be clear, when we're talking about mechanics, we're talking about crosshair placement, but it's kind of, I feel like when we talk about crosshair placement, it's almost like we need to talk about the trifecta, which is like, I think it's a trifecta. Like there's crosshair placement, there's your burst technique, and then there's the timing of your movement. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
like unless you hit that first one tap, like it's kind of all three of those things, right? Like if those three things aren't working together, then you're not going to be able to win your fights.
Right. 100%.
Okay. So I think it's important then that you're focusing on all of those three individual things at different times in your DM, depending on when you watch your DM, like what you're good at. Are you missing that first shot because your crosshair placement is way too close to the wall? Are you always bursting while you're moving, and so it's inaccurate? Or are you not able to control your recoil? Actually, maybe I'll ask you a
And
question on that. This is really specific, but like on a two burst recoil, let's say on a Vandal, are you trying to control that second bullet, or are you not controlling second bullet?
That's a great question. The quick answer is no. I've never controlled my burst before. Someone asked me this in my Discord the other day, and they were asking in the context of Phantom, like, "Do you control your burst on the Phantom?" And I was like, "No, I've never even really like thought about people like controlling my burst ever." And then I wondered if that is why my Phantom bursts suck. So I personally don't control my burst ever, and I'm able to play in Radiant lobbies. But I wonder if that's something that I'm missing out on. I actually don't know the answer to what other players do, um, but I definitely don't control the burst. I just let the bullets go.
Does Primi control his burst?
I have no idea. I don't think so, but I couldn't tell you.
No, it's just because you can see that second bullet
Hmm.
ticks up. So I was just wondering about that. So that's low elo. You're out of low elo now. Let's say you're moving away from your duelist agent. Would you be maining an agent at that point?
I think so. Maybe like two or three, depending on the map pool.
Would you be trying to switch up the agent on every on the strong and weak maps and maintain the type? Like, are you playing a Senti or a duelist or an initiator? Or are you trying to keep that role similar?
I think so, yeah. Like I wouldn't want to be, say, Sova on Haven and then Cypher on Ascent and then Omen on whatever. I think that would be too different because a huge importance on just the game is agent mastery number one, but agent mastery goes hand to hand with your role, right? Because like your role identity and your agent they were created with those in mind. So they don't play the same, right? Like a controller would never play the same as a duelist, even if there's are similar elements. They're designed differently. So
I noticed that recently because I always play Viper on Icebox, but other than that, I play Initiator, and it's like really hard to switch between this timing of like go 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 support your duelist on the entry versus I'm gonna try to time this lurk to catch someone. It's like a very different mindset, and I find it like kind of hard to switch between.
100%. I mean, even like now, like on my retired the Radiant climb, I've been like filling. So I'm like kind of going in between each roles. And I never realized how painful it is to fill. Specifically, the role that I'm struggling with the most right now is initiator. I don't know what it is, but like I feel like when I play the other roles compared to initiator, I can have my gun out and actually go for fights and timings. But when I play initiator, I just feel like I'm so like detached from the game that like it's just util first, and like I can't shift my mindset to actually be a good initiator, to I guess be like a battle initiator. I just feel too util oriented. It's a really tough transition.
And then at this level, let's say you're trying to get out of Plat and Diamond into Ascendant and Immortal. What are you working on now?
The main focus would be learning my agent slash role on all the maps, right? So there's 7 maps in the pool at a time. I would go and tackle them one by one, and I would start with my lowest win rate map. Let's say I want to learn um, Omen on Ascent. I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna look at VODs from pro players. I think at this point I can like figure out like a rough playbook. It's not gonna be anything crazy, but just where the standard smokes are, maybe where like one or two creative smokes are, like how do they hold a bomb site, how do they hit a site, like just the basic like cookie cutter strats you need that happens every single game. And then I would focus on that for that week. Whenever I get that map, I would play that agent, make sure to review my notes, make sure I'm implementing that and just testing stuff out to get more experience and data. And then I would do that for all 7 maps. And hopefully by the time I'm done, I'm in the higher ranks. But if not, it might be a mechanical thing that's holding me back, which I should touch on. I'm not leaving the mechanics training that I was doing in the lower ranks. That's going to be a habit of mine if I were to start from scratch from low elo all the way up to high elo. That's something that you need to be consistently doing, or that I would consistently do, is train my mechanics. So a little bit of aim lab. Maybe I would spend less time in the range and more time in the deathmatch at this stage. Just get those reps because at this point, hopefully, the crosshair placement, the peeking is mostly system two, and I just need more reps. But yeah, agent mastery playbooks for all 7 maps.
As you're building your playbooks, I feel like it'd be helpful to outline what that looks like to VOD review. I think we had talked about this in a prior episode. I think it was the episode on the ideal routine or schedule, where look at your VODs, look at your deaths, see if there's specific problems you want to solve, and then go and watch a pro VOD and see how they solved those problems. How did they retake B on bind? Or how do they hold U-Haul? Or maybe they don't ever. Like, what does that look like? And then go look for a solution and incorporate it into that playbook. Is that kind of like the process you were thinking?
100%. I think what could be added on to that is if we're working from a clean slate, you might have like a preconceived idea of how you want to approach the map, and then use that clipping software to course correct rather than being the starting point.
I guess the other question I had for you is as an example for myself, right? Like, let's say I'm trying to figure
Mhm.
out a map. I'm often playing Initiator. I play Fade a lot. Um, Watching a VOD with Derek on the same map with the same agent is very, very different than watching uh, Zito. So, like, when you're looking at pros to emulate, are you just trying to pick one and stick with them? Are you trying to assess their style versus yours? Like, what are you thinking about when you're trying to emulate someone? And let's say you don't have a full understanding of exactly why they're playing the way they're playing.
If I'm being honest, I value the leaderboard and the R more than anything else in this context. So let's say ZTOL is higher ranked than Derek in ranked, then I would just do the ZTOL stuff. If they're similar in rank, then it might be useful to take a look at both and just pick the elements that you think are useful. But generally, if my goal is to improve in ranked, I'm going to be looking at the ranked playstyle and playbook and trying to understand that as much as possible. Because obviously, in this example, ZTOL is a ranked player and not a pro player like Derek. So Derek might be playing a certain way because that's how he plays his matches, and that's just his habits or the way he views the game is slightly different.
And we're just being clear on what we're optimizing for, right? Like, Derek, if he's a pro player at that point, is not trying to optimize for ranked because he's already a pro player. Whereas the only goal for Ztol is to climb the ranks.
Right.
Okay. So I like that. I've never thought about that before. I've never looked them up to see which one's higher. I actually don't know who's higher.
Yeah, I have no idea. I know ZTOL has peaked high rank a lot, but
I think he's been rank one before, hasn't he?
multiple times. Yeah.
Okay. And then you'd be going through this on a map by map basis. Do you see yourself splitting this up, attack defense, or you're working on both sides of the map at once? Or you're trying to work on one side of the map at once?
I probably would just be approaching the map as a whole, but I would have separate notes for attack and defense. But I could see the logic of just doing one half so you don't feel like you're getting, I guess, overwhelmed. But the other argument to that would just be you want something to focus on for the entire game and not just one half. So I think for me personally, I would do the map as a whole. And if that becomes too much or if it's taking too much time to flesh that out, then I think doing it in a half basis could be a good middle ground.
Are there any traps that players you think might fall into that you would want to, or maybe traps that you fell into that you would want to avoid on this journey for yourself? Like if you were doing it again?
The main one that I experienced was focusing too much on mechanics. Like I spent way too much time aim training, way too much time coping and justifying that I lost this round because of my aim. When in reality, I could have played the situation completely different and not taken X and Y Z fight. So that is a trap that I would try to avoid going into it. Is mechanics are there to be trained, and it's something that improves slowly, so you train it consistently but not over obsess about it. Like like that's never the problem in the long term. It's like you can short term obsess over it as a side quest, but it's a side quest and not a main quest. um, the other thing that I would be worried about in following about the trap is not taking ranks too seriously. um, and the reason why I say that is for me, I started valuing like my own, I guess, ego more than getting better at ranked. And I know this is all talking about how to climb the ranked, but somewhere along the way, my focus was less about getting better at Valorant and more so about feeding my ego by getting clips or getting kills. And I just have to remind myself that the goal would be to improve in Valorant, and individual performance is kind of not important in that case.
How maybe, and this is a more general one. If you were to look back, how would you approach the game differently mentally? Like in terms of prep, like pre-game and warm up, in the game and after the game.
Before the game, I would definitely be warming up consistently. Like I would have a routine. I would make sure I'd eat before. I would make sure like it's kind of like a space that I create for myself that this is like game time. I'm prepping for it. Like it's actually something serious because I'm going to invest time into it. I wanted to do it right. During the games, I think it wouldn't not too much would change, except that because I prepped before, maybe my direction going into the game is a little bit more clear and I have things to work on. But the mentality would still be like, I'm trying my best, I'm trying to win. Like that's never really changed for me because I'm a competitor. But there was the undertone before of not enjoying ranked and letting that kind of go. And then after the game, um, it's rare to find a player, at least in my experience that I've worked with, that people do things after the game. Like warm up and playing the games, like you can convince most people to do that. But the post game, like review, the reflection, making the playbooks, like that type of area seems to be missed out on a lot. And that's something that I ignored for a long time. So you could argue that that piece is more important than the games at a certain point, and I would have to make sure that I do that.
What piece about that is more important?
Because at a certain point your reps are wasted if you don't know what you're working towards. So if by reflecting and reviewing your games you can course correct and figure out where you should be putting your focus and your efforts, and that might change from a day-to-day basis. You might get new data. Another thing to add on to that would be, if you don't review, then you could be like solidifying bad habits, and that's definitely not something you want to get into a habit, or you don't want a bad habit too early. So
Would you want to approach games with like process goals? You know how you have when you have clients, and I think when I saw the huge notes for his clients, it's like, in this game you're going to just do these things on attack and you're going to do these things on defense. Would you be trying to apply like process goals over outcome goals? Like obviously we can't win every game, and it's not healthy for us to think we do have to win every game. So would you use process goals, and then how would you create them?
process goals would be something that I would do if I feel stuck. I don't know if I would necessarily start the grind with process goals. Like for example, one process goal that comes to mind is pre-rounding, say three rounds on attack. Right, that is a very good goal to have. But I don't know if I would start with it unless I find that that's a weakness. So that kind of gets into how I would create the process goal. If I review my footage or if I'm just playing the game and I notice this pattern come up to where I think that I'm losing value on, then I would make a process goal. So two come to mind for me that I'm currently struggling with. One is my mental, is when I get ignored when I make a call, and I make the call, like it's not like they ignored me because they didn't hear me because I did it too early. Like it's like I called it at the start, the middle, the end of the buy round. I called it like multiple times before the buy round starts, and then like the players next to me moving around, they look at me, whatever, they just ignore me, right? Like they don't want to do the plan, they're tilted, whatever. When I put that energy into the rounds and that doesn't get reciprocated, immediately my mental goes out the window. I'm like, oh, they don't want to win, I don't want to win, right? So for a process goal for that, I would be like, okay, when that happens, when I get ignored, I'm not going to lose my mental and I'm going to stay in the game. That would be one. And like, if it happens like two times, I'll try to keep it together. If it happens the third time, then, you know, at least I made it to two, right? So that would be a process goal for me. Another one that comes to mind too would be, like I said, the plans. Um, so it might be like a pre-round plan, it might be a mid-round plan, it might be a post plan, like an end game plan. Whatever I feel like is important, I would make that like a quest or a quota to reach. Um, but like I said, I wouldn't start with them. I think they come over time, and if you're reflecting enough, you can spot those.
When you are going into games when you don't have a process goal, what are you thinking about?
Maybe just performing. Maybe that would be where like I would be playing the game to win and just seeing what ends up coming up. like playing my fundamentals, not really trying anything too crazy, but just like, I guess this is kind of how you can benchmark yourself in Valorant, when you're just playing the game, seeing if your mechanics are like messing up, but you're just doing your best to win. Um, and then you can start outlining some process goals there.
Was there anything we didn't talk about that we should have?
I think maybe we could mention playing in stacks, like duo queue, trio queue, five stacks. Um, I think early on, I would never play duo queue, just get that mechanics down. But then once I'm in the middle elo range and I'm learning a new role, I could see playing duo queue worthwhile if that player you're duo queuing with either knows more about the game, so you have like a person to ask questions off of, um, and like just reference points, but also because it will allow you to play your agent more consistently, right? At that point, if they're like filling and you can kind of play your role, that would be ideal. Um, but after that, you could continue playing duo queue like up into the high ranks if you wanted to, because in my opinion, I think playing in duos makes the game easier. Like there's just less factors to control. Um, so it is possible and it's a viable strat to do that. I think it would depend for me on how invested my duo partner is. Like, are they in the same mindset as me? Are they trying to do the same like similar things with the game with me? Then I would continue playing with them. And if like the answer is no, then I think self improvement in that case is better done alone.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining on this episode. We're going to get back to the initiator, not initiator, probably the Senti or the controller playbook on the next episode. And we'll dive into a new agent on a new map and continue that series. Thanks everyone for joining in and listening. We really appreciate the support, and we appreciate you. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.